The trucks in the Inner West community sessions began earlier this year. Since this time, the Victorian Government has committed funding for the western section of the East-West Link and the Port Rail Shuttle. It is expected both of these projects will have significant impacts on truck movements in the Inner West and change the landscape of how trucks and vehicles enter and exit the broader western suburbs. Future land use changes as a result of these projects will also facilitate investment in the region. The trucks in the Inner West Working Group will be looking at short-term measures that will complement and capitalise on these two projects into the future. In order to get a better understanding of these measures, VicRoads and Maribyrnong City Council have undertaken a truck movement survey with the help of an independent consultant. This is the first time a study has sought to identify and track truck movements in and through the Inner West, even though numerous studies have been undertaken before. This video is a snapshot of the draft Inner West Truck Surveys report and its findings. The survey results are not about the exact numbers, but about establishing truck patterns across the Inner West. For example, where trucks are coming from and where they're going to. The study is presented in draft form. The final version of the study will not be completed until comments from the community and stakeholders have been considered. The survey included automatic traffic counters over 7 days to collect light and commercial vehicle data. These are the rubber tubes you often see on the road. Cameras recorded truck types and number plates over a 24-hour period. The number plate data is then used to establish the origins and destinations of trucks. It is a snapshot in real time of truck movement patterns. As displayed on this map, the Yarraville-Footscray area contains a wide range of land uses. The green areas identify residential use within the Inner West, and this is surrounded by a mix of industrial and commercial uses which are displayed in orange and blue. Within the municipality of Maribyrnong, there are approximately 6,500 businesses. There are 2 large industrial zones which have a concentration of transport, manufacturing and logistical activity. The Tottenham, Brooklyn and West Footscray zone contains more than 200 businesses which employ around 3,600 people. The Yarraville Port Zone contains an estimated 270 businesses which employ around 1,500 people. These businesses rely on their proximity to transport infrastructure. The nature of business and employment in these areas is changing. However, these businesses will continue to rely on the need to get their product to market. As displayed on the regional map, Maribyrnong is located within a much larger region of industrial activity. Over time, there may be some changes in land use, for example from industrial to residential, in areas such as the western section of Yarraville or Maidstone. However, the industrial employment generating zones in Melbourne's west will continue to place pressure on truck movements in the Inner West. A key purpose of this study is to gain a greatly enhanced understanding of which truck movements are through trips, that is, they do not have business in the local area, and which truck movements are precinct trips, that is, they are conducting business in the local area. This knowledge is needed to support the modelling of potential options to address trucks in the Inner West. The land use information was used to pick the 3 different areas, or cordons, for the truck movement survey. The western cordon, the main cordon and the freeway cordon. The blue circles show the site where the tube counts and cameras were stationed. For the purposes of this presentation, we will focus on the yellow shaded area, the main cordon, which covers truck movements through Yarraville and Footscray. However, information about all cordons is provided in the full report. It provides valuable insights into truck movements in the wider area. The area within each cordon is known as a precinct. This map shows two-way truck volumes in the main cordon over a 24-hour period. It also breaks down the types of trucks, for example, container trucks and tankers. It shows which roads are the busiest in terms of truck volumes, namely Footscray Road and Francis Street. Other roads like Moore Street, Somerville Road and Buckley Street all carry lower truck volumes and had a relatively even distribution of trucks over the 24-hour period. The subsequent slides show similar data but look at truck curfew periods and non-curfew periods. This map shows two-way truck volumes observed between 6 a.m. and 8 p.m, non-curfew hours. The busiest location for trucks was Footscray Road, with over 7,300 trucks observed. On Francis Street, over 4,200 trucks were observed near Hyde Street, and on Somerville Road, over 1,700 trucks were observed near Hyde Street. On Moore Street, over 1,200 trucks were observed. The majority of trucks on all of these roads were container trucks. It can be assumed that the majority of container trucks are accessing the Port of Melbourne or other logistic-related destinations, container yards within the precinct, and industrial, commercial businesses to the west. This map shows two-way truck volumes observed between 8 p.m. and 6 a.m, curfew hours. Over 1,450 trucks were observed on Footscray Road. The majority of these were container trucks. On Francis Street, 294 trucks were observed, of which the majority were tankers. The majority of tankers would be entering and exiting the precinct for business purposes, primarily accessing the local refineries. Very few trucks were observed on Somerville Road, with 14 trucks near Hyde Street. On Moore Street, 939 trucks were observed. Observations through this survey demonstrate a high level of compliance with truck curfews. With the current curfews in place, the truck load at night is being shared by Moore Street and Buckley Street. A key objective of these truck surveys was to determine the proportion of journeys that are through trips and those that are precinct trips. A through trip is a truck trip that took less than 30 minutes and is therefore assumed to have gone straight through the precinct. A precinct trip is a truck trip that is greater than 30 minutes and is therefore assumed to have stopped in the precinct, for example, to conduct business. As part of this survey, there is a proportion of truck trips that have been classed as undetermined trips. See the grey section of the pie chart. These are trucks that were observed at one site but not observed elsewhere. These could be trucks that stayed in the precinct or trucks that entered or exited via another street, for example, Droop Street. Here, the map shows the proportion of through trips and precinct trips. Broadly speaking, over half of all trucks travelling within the precinct are on a through trip. The northern end of Williamstown Road and Moore Street has the highest proportion of through trips in the precinct. The draft findings from this study highlight that the precinct is impacted by a large number of through trucks. It is also the case that many trucks in the precinct are associated with existing land uses and business within the precinct. The findings of the study enable the modelling of short-term options to address the impacts of trucks using roads in the inner west. However, the study also highlights the complexity of the problem. Restricting through traffic on one road may simply displace the problem onto another road. In addition, a proportion of trucks will also continue to make precinct trips. While there are no easy answers, the study will allow options to be considered and modelled with a much greater degree of accuracy than was previously the case. Detailed information on through trips and precinct trips are available for each key road within the precinct. Somerville Road is used here as the example. This map summarises the proportion of through and precinct trips observed for trucks entering and exiting Somerville Road between 6 a.m. and 8 p.m, non-curfew hours. Of the 942 trucks that were seen heading inbound on Somerville Road, 520 or 55% were on a through trip using Somerville Road. 227 trucks or 24% were on a precinct trip, and 195 or 21% were undetermined trips. The main through trip were 37% of trucks going to Footscray Road. 64% of the 894 trucks were observed heading outbound on Somerville Road. 174 trucks, or 19%, using Somerville Road were on a precinct trip, and 146, or 16%, were undetermined trips. Analysis was also undertaken on Somerville Road with trucks entering and exiting the area between 8 p.m. and 6 a.m, curfew hours. Overnight volumes are very low, with approximately 30 trucks on Somerville Road just east of Geelong Road. Of the 12 trucks that were seen heading inbound on Somerville Road, 7 trucks, or 58%, were on a through trip. 3 trucks, or 25%, using Somerville Road were on a precinct trip, and 2 trucks, or 17%, were undetermined. The main through trip were 25% of trucks going to Footscray Road. Approximately 28% of all 18 trucks observed heading outbound on Somerville Road were on a through trip. 5 trucks, or 28% using Somerville Road, were on a precinct trip, and 8, or 44%, were undetermined trips. Feedback is encouraged from the community on this Inner West Truck Surveys report. The results of this survey will be used to assist the working group in determining potential options to address truck traffic issues within the Inner West.